welcome back to my channel. It's Christian here, and you're tuned in for more of my 2 cents. And boy, do we have a juicy topic today. We're going to be talking about spare the rod, hate the child, which the saying is now spare the rod, spoil the child. But I want to ask you, are you sparing anyone and hating them? Or are you doing it anyway and traumatizing them? Ooh wee, this is a good one even for me. First thing first, I have to do a little housekeeping and get our 3 points out of the way before we start our dialogue today. Number one, you are not crazy. You are not alone. Number two, you are not crazy. And number three, God still loves you. We talk about a lot of topics here, some that are all spiritual based, some about church and some just overall life in general. And this is what I'm getting into this week a little bit more, talking about matters of the heart and everyday life lessons that we can actually start like taking scriptural text and values and beliefs and start looking at it from a perspective of logic and how it actually serves us or does us no justice. It does us no good to actually still be implementing them. Growing up, I was raised in a household where we were whipped. We did get whoopings, and I'm going to be approaching this from as much of a safe space as I possibly can because I do not desire to trigger anyone. But I do feel that unction in myself to actually give that disclaimer right now. If you have trauma, or if you feel as if though this video can evoke any kind of emotion for you that brings on thoughts or feelings of the abuse or the mistreatment or the hurt that you may have, I admonish you to please end the video right now. Please, I do not want to send anyone off. I don't want to set anybody off, but I do want to have this discussion because I know that it is a belief that is widely received and practiced, A, in the Black community, and B, in the church and the spiritual world. And I have to address it now because it is something that my husband and I are very conscious and aware of and intentional about not perpetuating on our children, and hopefully the future generations to come will also gather this thought process, this mind, and do the work to really understand what is better for the people who are coming up under our supervision, under our influence, and the impact that our words and our actions have over their lives. So if this is something that you can stomach and you can watch, I just ask that you click off the video for your own safety, your own mental strength, and your own peace, okay? All right, but thank you so much for watching. If the title alone brought you in, okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so growing up, I was raised in a household where we were whooped. We did receive whoopings, and I love my mom dearly. I love her so very much, and I am not upset at all while filming this video. But I'm being extremely transparent right now because this is not a conversation that a lot of people have. And especially as Black children, you do grow up with it being normal, but a lot of it is just abuse. It's borderline abusive. And it's not one of those things where you're sparing the rod and hating your child if you don't discipline them physically. You're actually usually doing more damage than good because a lot of this could be fixed. A lot of things are just learning experiences that if we were to just communicate, if we were just to talk, if we wanted to instill more knowledge than fear, we could do more good, more good than harm, right? I understand that a lot of our parents only did what was done to them and only exercised actions that they understood. And that knowledge is really, to a certain degree, very limited. And a lot of times adults have not done the work in former generations to find out the origin of things and to really process what it does to the person that is at the other end, at the receiving end of it. Whoopings did not make me act better. It made me become a better liar. Whoopings did not make me stop doing anything. It just made me become more sneaky. Whoopings did not make me feel bad. It actually enraged me. Whoopings did not make me feel loved. It actually made me more fearful. And whoopings did not feel like it was something that God wanted me to experience. It's something that I felt my mother needed to experience in order for her to feel like I got the message of disappointment that she felt for what I had done. And this is me and my processing as a child receiving it, right? I didn't feel like it was abuse at all. I never felt like it was abuse in the act. But now that I'm an adult and I realize what was done, it was by the very definition abusive. Even if it was done in love. You cannot separate the two of telling a woman who is a part of domestic violence that that's wrong. He or she, whoever your significant other, should not be hitting you and doing that to you. A man that is a part of a domestic violence situation, he or she that's doing that to you is wrong. Get away from them, file a police report. You need to be protected. And then, I'm sorry, y'all. My income is constantly increasing. That was an affirmation, and I will say it today, okay? And at 9:30 every day. And then turn around and tell children, right, that an abusive parent is just when they throw objects at them, possibly. It's so much contradiction that domestic violence is not okay, but then being whooped or beat in your home for punishment purposes is totally normal, and I'm doing it because I love you. But you have a domestic violence individual, right, a perpetrator, who says they're hitting you because they love you, and they send you flowers afterwards, or they take you out to eat or buy you an outfit or some jewelry. You can't do the same. It's very hypocritical. You can't do one and then denounce the other. You can't raise me this way by not sparing the rod and not spoiling me. So you're going to beat my butt, right? You're going to tear that ass up. And then when I become an adult and someone else is doing that to me that I love, a man, woman, whatever, when they start doing it to me, do you not think that the trauma from childhood is going to then process that this is what love is? Right? Under the guise of it being spiritual foundation, of it being acceptable from God, of it being in order to discipline your children as you love them. You have to be able to understand that everything that we learn as children is what we start to take on as our values, what we start to perceive as the reality that we should accept. And we accept it in different formats, right? In other ways. It may not always be physical. Sometimes it can be verbal once we grow up. Our parents whooped us and beat us when we were children, but now we're in a work environment that is abusive, and we mentally don't have the capacity to process. We should remove ourselves from it, because as children, that was taken from us. Our voice was taken from us. You got popped and whooped for talking back and simply wanting to explain yourself. The other day we were going somewhere. We were walking up the hallway in my sister's apartment building, and I had pushed my daughter in the back to make her walk a little bit faster because I was stepping on her heels. And she turned around. She's 4. She turned around and said, "Stop." And I said, "Who are you talking to?" I was like, "Don't talk to me like that." She was like, "Well, I don't like when you do that to me." 4 years old. I'm not putting words in her mouth, y'all. She literally told me, "I don't like when you do that to me." She wasn't scared to say that to me. That's number one, right? Because we communicate. We allow them to communicate their feelings to us. So she didn't feel any kind of way about saying that to me because she knew that there wasn't going to be punishment of her getting whooped for it. Now, growing up, that wouldn't have been my testimony. Okay, I had to text my husband to get my daughter because she'd be out there hollering, and I'm not editing it out. Okay, growing up, that would have been a whooping for me, right? Talking back to my mother, right? Anything on those lines, there was so much broken down that can tear away the fabric of who a person is or is becoming as a child into young adulthood or teenager or whatever, because you're stripping away pieces of who they are. The very origin of whooping someone or beating someone for Black people, we relate that to slavery, to break the will of the slaves, right? To beat them into submission so that they would fear the slave master or the owner more than they would their free thought. They feared their free thoughts so much that they had to conform to whatever the owner was telling them to do instead, to not get beat within an inch of their lives. Enslaved owners literally beating them within an inch of their life and not all the way until unalive, so that they can still use their bodies for their purpose. So you think about you perpetuating that onto children of you talk back, you spilled something, right? You messed something up. You wasted something, you wrote on the wall. Childhood behavior, childish behavior, now being punished in the same way that slaves were, or like other people who had done nothing wrong. They were just simply wanting to be controlled. And the way to like break down their ability to reason for themselves and to want to buck against you or go rebuttal, if I beat you into submission, I ain't got to worry about you rising up on me, right? Because most of the slave owners and masters could have been outnumbered by the slaves, and they knew that at any moment. But if we beat you into submission and break your will and desire to even try, right, to get free, to even try to overthrow us, we're good to go here. We're good to go. That's not a problem. Same way with children and whooping them and chastising them. If I break your will enough to where you don't want to talk back to me, you don't want to express yourself, you don't want to show emotion of hurt or fear or anger or disappointment for something, I don't have to worry about how you feel. I don't have to address my children having a voice because I've broken their will to express themselves. I've broken their will to think for themselves. I've broken their will to choose something other than what I'm presenting to them. You don't realize the damage you're doing by trying to follow a scripture of spare the rod, hate the child. It's been taken out of context. If your first response is to want to hit a child, an infant, a toddler, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, I got my last whooping at 18. Let me let y'all in on that secret, right? I make no qualms about it. I'm not making this up. I respected my mother so much that I didn't try to buck against her or fight her back, right? You whoop me, I'm getting a whooping. Period. I'm 18 years old in high school getting a whooping, y'all. The mind had been broken down to believe that was acceptable. It's not okay. It's not. Even with the love aspect, you don't hurt nothing you love. The few times I've wanted to whoop my children, right? And gotten ready to strike or get a belt or whatever, just hearing them crying, looking at their face in fear. Baby, that was enough. That was enough for me. Any human that can watch something, their offspring beg and plead to not be hit, beg and plead to not be beat, which I've done, right? I've done that. Most of you watching this video, if you're Black or any other race for that matter, I'm not just going to put this only on Black parents or households. If you've ever experienced getting a whooping or a beating or whatever your family or parents called it, you've been fearful while it was taking place. It hurt you. If you ran, it hurt you. You were scared of your parent running after you, chasing you, walking behind you with a belt, a switch, a cord, a towel, a wet rag, or whatever it was, right? This is being real here. And this is what we're telling people, that if you spare the rod, you hate the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. What exactly are we teaching, right? It's the breaking down of one's own self-awareness, self-love, value. And we're okay with doing that. The whoopings at home actually properly positions you to be beat down mentally in the real world. It actually breaks your will to stand up for yourself in so many other areas. And we don't realize we're actually the catalyst for when your child decided they weren't going to speak up for themselves anymore. You wonder, for some children that may be subject to bullying, right? They don't have a voice at home. It makes it easier when somebody else outside of the home decides to perpetrate wrong against them. They don't know how to speak up for themselves because they can't speak up against you. You're the adult. So when they get to school and a teacher is doing something to them, they don't have a voice at home with an adult. Their first connection is my mom or dad does this, so it clearly is okay for this adult to do it. Y'all got to understand, I have a background in psychology. Everything is mental for me. You're starting the framework for your child to not trust adults or for them to fear every adult. From childhood to adulthood, everyone in leadership or hierarchy above them, they can't stand up to. So when you have people who go to work and they can't stand their boss, but they're afraid to say something, it ain't because of they check all the time. Sometimes they don't even know how to stand up for themselves. Even when they're right in standing up for themselves, they don't have a voice. You removed it at 5. You removed it at 3. Slapping kids in the face? A big hell no for me. But I see people do it. Popping their kids in the mouth. Pinching their children, right? You're doing all of these things that when you have an innate reaction or a rightful response, you're shutting all of that down where your defense mechanisms are silenced, right? Your desire to actually make people respect you or to voice how you're disappointed or you're dissatisfied with what someone is doing to you, you don't know how to express it. Your voice has been removed. Be conscious that you're not only raising a 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 16, 18-year-old right now. That child is going to be an adult longer than it was your child. A 5-year-old is going to be grown longer than they're going to be 5. You're only 5 once. You're only 6 once. You're only 10 once. But once you hit 18, you're grown for the rest of your life. That's 60 plus, 80 plus years. That's longer than you were 5. Right? Do you get what I'm saying? The adulthood versus the trauma of childhood. You're marking people to be able to say you didn't let that slide. I got them together. Them whoopings worked. They didn't work for everybody, baby. Everybody didn't make it out of getting whooped the same. Some people are traumatized. Some people have even suppressed it so much so. Some people are out here perpetuating it onto their children and their children's children are going on. It's a cycle because other effective forms of communication were not taught instead. And we're standing on the scripture in the base of spare the rod, hate the child. Right? Driving things out of children. That's not how we do this. And any religion or belief system that teaches you that that is what should be done is extremely disgusting and disrespectful. We're talking about another human being and you wouldn't want it done to you in your adult stage of life. So why would you do this to a child who is yet learning what is acceptable or unacceptable, what's pleasing or displeasing? Teach them with your mouth. Teach them with the values. If you're not strong enough to relay it and convey it with your words, then what do you really have? Because resulting in violence, we say that's not the answer. You think you should just be able to walk off and file on one of your coworkers? File on your boss? File on the girl at Walmart that didn't answer your question? You would go to jail for that. But then this person that's under your care, which nobody else can see privately, you feel like is your personal punching bag. Go get me a switch off the tree. Who? What, we finna build a tent? A fort? Is that what I'm going to get a stick for? Tell my kids to go get a stick off a tree. They wouldn't know. They'd be like, we finna play, mommy. They wouldn't have a clue. But I didn't pick the switch or two in my day for myself. Used to pick thick sticks because I thought they wouldn't hurt as bad. And then I started picking tiny sticks and then realizing they stinged even worse. That's not okay to have that as memories, but you learn. I've learned. So instead of perpetuating that on my children, I'm not mad at my mother. I love my mother. I've said that before. It's okay. I'm not hollering abuse out here about what happened to me. I just realized that it was abusive. I've come to terms and to grips with it. Even though it may felt like love and being able to control the situation and bring us under submission, it all stems back to the original root of what beating and whippings were usually for: whipping posts. Embarrassing people in front of other slaves to let them know to never try it. And we're going to then turn around and use this as a format of raising children who are in one way or another enslaved to our parenting. They don't get to choose to go live somewhere else. They're under your supervision. As were the slaves to their slave masters. They couldn't buck against their slave owners. They'd be killed. There was no option for that. And now I can't leave your house because I'm 5. I'm 6. I'm supposed to come to you for love, for attention, for affection, to hold me, to kiss me, to play with me. And instead I'm running from you, hiding under beds, begging you not to hit me, right? Crying. And you're, shut up, I'm going to give you something else to cry about. But you already did. Understand, follow me here. It's a lot. The logic is deeper than just scripture. The logic is deeper than what somebody else told you it means. It doesn't mean that. And even if you thought it did, you can think something different starting today. Let me encourage you and empower you to start talking to your children, to start finding out what they like and what makes them uncomfortable, to start taking accountability when you hurt their feelings and they tell you that you do. If your children are not safe with you, then they need to be protected from you. Think about that. Think about that. How would I feel if this was me seeing an adult that I'm supposed to trust that I'm now afraid of? We think because we are being taught to fear God that our children should also fear us. I don't fear God. That's a totally different video. I respect my creator. I love my creator. May not want to disappoint my creator, but I don't have fear for my creator. Because fear and love cannot exist in the same space. But y'all out here saying that it can. Again, hypocritical. My children fearing me more than respecting me and then saying, dang, I really don't want to disappoint mom and dad. That disappointment will hold more weight than the fear of just trying to hide what they think is going to make us upset. And that's what I spent majority of my life doing, hiding a lot of stuff. Because I didn't want the whooping punishment. But I didn't even take into consideration how it made my mother feel, because she wasn't considering how I felt. So now that I know better, I'm doing better. I'm choosing better. And I would say I'm not trying to tell you how to parent, but I actually am from a psychological standpoint. All of these people now who are talking about having to go to counseling, baby, the trauma is real. It's deep. And it stems from the people who raised them. It stems from the people they encountered outside of their home that they also couldn't trust. It's a lot. The world is only as sick or as healthy as the people that helped to make them that way. Woo! The world is only as sick and healthy as the people that helped to make them that way. The experiences, the information, the resources, the access, the struggle, the success, the growth, the healing. Don't do to nobody else what you didn't want done to you. Don't perpetuate on nobody else what your ancestors didn't want perpetuated onto them. We have to stop the cycle. And standing on one scripture text with one thought process and never evolving on how it actually makes the humans feel that it's being done to is disgusting. Call me whatever you like. Your children are going to be rotten. No, my children are going to be healed and whole. They're going to know that it's wrong when somebody tries to do it to them. And they're going to step up for themselves and tell me and their father. Because they're no longer afraid. Because we're not doing it to them at the crib. Right? When you take away people's defense mechanisms or their ability to say, wait a minute, I ain't never had nobody hit me like this. I'm finna go tell. You're actually doing yourself a disservice to protect your own by perpetuating that on them. But what do I know? Right? I'm just a millennial. We just out here doing whatever we want to do and our kids just running over us. No, it's other values that aren't in place that allows that to happen. But it's more of the disapproval. We have our 7-year-old. He's an empath. And we have to get out of the mindset of our children don't have feelings or they don't know any better. They do. Especially when you communicate with them and you allow them to express themselves, they'll prove to you how much they know. It may shock you how much they actually soak in. That's the difference. I'm not going to even get into it with I will share, but my son is an empath and he takes on the feelings of others. He can sense when something and someone is not feeling right or when something's off between me, his dad, his sister. He cares. He embodies that emotion and the energy. And it's times when we don't I couldn't imagine whooping him because his feelings are so easily hurt and expressed when he feels like he's disappointing me or his dad. That's how much he cares to not disappoint us. Like, buddy, we asked you to make your bed. Why didn't you do it? I'm very disappointed in you. Go ahead and put your iPad on my dresser. No more iPad for you for the rest of the day. I'm very disappointed in you, buddy. This should be your first thing you do when you get out of the bed every day. There's no need to whoop him for that, right? And it may seem minor, like, girl, that was just a bed being made up. Talk about something else. No, that's where it starts. Because he's 7, right? So before there's a lie that I need to whoop him for, how about just give him the tools to not feel like he has to lie? How about not instilling fear on a basic level to where that doesn't even get to there, right? It may come in teenage years. I don't know. I'm not there yet. But the foundation that we're building is one of understanding and communication. One of disappointment, and I don't want to let my mom and dad down. Building a relationship where they desire to be close to you and communicate, even when they do lie, like, I'm sorry, I did do that. Like when they tell on themselves. Our 4-year-old tells on herself when she feels bad. I ain't got to find out nothing. The baby coming out here snitching on herself. Relationship. She's not afraid of the consequences because instead she feels bad about disappointing us. So try it. It's possible. These are little humans now, but they'll be grown adults longer. Even when you're not here to say you're sorry, you would have traumatized them beyond repair, right? Even when they've grown up and they're now bosses and leaders and managers over other people, they're going to be spewing the vitriol from that they may not even realize is a root onto their subordinates, their coworkers, their significant others. Realize that You may have them now, but they won't be with you forever. And you're not sparing the rod and spoiling the child or hating the child. You're not doing that. You're actually raising the future that A, may not want to take care of you because of how you beat them, right? Okay? Who may A, grow up to do that to their children or to someone else or worse. Let's be cognizant of how we move. Let's be cognizant of how we teach, how we train, and what our values are. This is something that's close to me because I got the revelation before we even had children. Thank God for that. Like, I don't want to do this to my children. I don't want to perpetuate this onto them. I want them to be healthy, happy, and whole. I don't want them to have to go through counseling to get delivered from what I did to them. It's insanity. That's why I say, like, Christianity is so backwards. We're out here claiming salvation, but trying to, like, excuse that God is out here punishing us for certain things too. You don't hurt something you love, ever. I love you so much that I'm going to hurt you. That's literally what some of us should start saying to our children before you beat them. I love you so much, I'm about to hurt you. And hopefully when you're saying it, it sounds crazy, because it is. And that's all I'm submitting to you. Just because your parents and grandparents did it and you turned out fine, they turned out fine, you don't know that, baby. You don't know, because they didn't have the tools to communicate just how jacked up they really were. So just because people survived, baby, doesn't mean they were happy in their survival. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and it, sparked some kind of conversation at your table with your family, your friends, your children. And some of you may need to apologize to your children. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, I didn't know better. I wish I had have. I would have never put my hands on you. How did it make you feel when you had when I would whoop you? Ask. So that those adults now can get healing and not perpetuate it onto their children. Because some grandparents can't stand to hear their grandbabies get whooped. But you did it to their parents, right? You didn't care about hearing their parents cry. Now you don't want to see your baby get pinched or whooped. But where was that energy when you were doing it to their parents? You see the double standard in the hypocrisy? Oh, what he did wasn't that bad, girl. Don't hit that baby no more. Who was there to say that when you was chasing me around like Michael Myers? Okay. Woo! This is a hot topic. That's all I'm saying. Okay. All right, you guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I enjoy and appreciate the conversation, the dialogue, and hey, even the disagreement. Go ahead. Don't hit me with no scriptures, though. Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't do that. We talked about that one scripture, but don't throw no other ones at me about being able to beat your kids, because it ain't gonna go well for you. But yeah, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video for more of my 2 cents. Bye.